Closed session items. Item A, conference with labor negotiators, information was shared. Item B, public employee discipline, information was shared. And reporting from closed session, we have hired 3 new employees with the 5-0 vote. Our first employee will be Ms. Jeanette Herrera. Our second 5-0 vote is Mr. Brett Patterson. And our third 5-0 vote, unanimous, is Ms. Rachel Chapman. Can we all please stand for the pledge? And at this moment, I would like to welcome our new superintendent, Mr. Dr. McDuffie.
Thanks.
To Santa Maria Bonita, and could you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Absolutely, my pleasure. Ready? Begin.
I
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item C, calendar of upcoming meetings, activities, and events. August 11th, 2022, first day of school.
Wow. Wow.
Summer has flown by. August 10th, 2022, regular board meeting. August 24th, 2022, board study session. Oh, I'm sorry.
That was my.
Excuse me, roll call.
Mrs. Cordero? Yes, ma'am. Mr. Lara?
Here.
Mrs. Flores? Here. Mr. Valencia?
Present.
Mr. Hollinshead?
Here.
Public comment. The public comments are intended for members of the public to address the Board of Education on items involving the school district. Such testimony shall be limited to 3 minutes each or 450 words per person, subject, and 15 minutes total each topic. If an answer to a specific question is requested, the board president will, if appropriate, direct administration to respond in writing. Dr. McDuffie, do we have any?
Yes, we do. We have Kendall Johnston.
Good evening, board members
Good
and
evening.
superintendent. My name is Kendall Johnston, and I'm here to speak on behalf of a special education student currently enrolled at the Santa Maria Bonita School District. Within the last 12 months, this district has repeatedly failed to provide a safe and nurturing learning environment for this particular student. The first failure by this district was to deny a transfer from Liberty Special Education to Libin once enrollment there started. The student's sibling was accepted at Libin, leaving this particular student behind with no sibling support for the school year. The second failure by the district is unfortunately much more serious. While being forced to remain at Liberty Elementary, this student was subjected to months of bullying, intimidation, theft, and sexual assault at the hands of 4 other students. Not just a few instances, this went on for months. Months of these kids not being supervised on campus. A reasonable person would think that after this horrible situation was discovered, that the district would act to prevent it from occurring again. The only action the district took was to finally transfer the student to Libin, where they should have been from the start. Subsequently, this victimized student in their new school was enrolled in a summer session that included the ringleader of the same group of kids that had assaulted them. At that time, school officials let the student's family know that they were taking measures to keep the student separated and monitored. However, the last day of the summer session, this student was assigned to the same field trip group as their abuser. Why was the summer enrollment for the abusers not flagged internally to avoid them having access to their victim? Why was the separation of these students not enforced? And why should the victim be forced by this incompetent school board or school district, to spend their summer in worry and fear of being abused again? Student safety and a secure learning environment are the core of successful education. And it appears that your core value number 4 is not being taken very seriously. This is something you have to care about. This is the most basic premise behind the formation of a school board. If If you're not angry after hearing what's happening in the district that you represent, then you are part of a bigger problem. While this particular student has a network of support at home and is receiving professional counseling, you know not every student is going to be that fortunate. And it is the responsibility of each and every elected official on this board to investigate the issues that Liberty live in throughout the district. It is your responsibility as elected officials to make sure and use every means possible to prevent this from happening to another vulnerable student. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
That's all we have.
That's all we have. Item A, comments on agenda items. Comments on non-agenda. Approval of agenda is presented.
I'll move to approve the agenda as presented. I'll second.
Ms. Cordero moves, Ms. Flores second. Roll call.
I'm sorry, we do have some comments on non-agenda.
The non-agenda.
Is that something we do now?
Yeah.
Right, okay. We can do the non-agenda items?
Thumbs up too. We can do it then.
Okay, well, why don't we do it then? I have two items to pull from the agenda before we approve it.
And I erase my, and I will second that.
Okay, the items.
Pulling action items 7D and 7F.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Sorry, action item
7D.
7D and 7F.
F.
D and F.
F. Okay. Do I have a motion?
I will now move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second?
Ms. Cordero moves, Mr. Hollingshead seconds. Roll call.
Mrs. Cordero? Aye. Mr. Lara?
Aye.
Mrs. Flores? Aye. Mr. Valencia? Mr. Valencia?
Uh-oh.
Mr. Hollingshead?
Aye. And was my name called already? My apologies.
Mr. Valencia?
Yes, aye.
Thank you.
Consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Mr. Hollingshead moves, Ms. Flores second. Roll call.
Mrs. Cordero? Aye. Mr. Lara?
Aye.
Mrs. Flores? Aye. Mr. Valencia?
Aye.
Mr. Hollingshead?
Aye.
Motion carries. Excuse me. Thank you. Action item 7A. Resolution on board compensation for missing meetings. Dr. McDuffie.
I'll move that the Board of Education adopt resolution.
Wait, he hasn't.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Jumping the gun.
A little slow here.
Gotta watch
I
that one.
apologize. I'm a little slow. The attached resolution must be adopted in order to compensate board members for absences from board meetings to perform services outside the meeting for the district. If the board member was ill or on jury duty, or the absence was due to hardship deemed acceptable by the board.
Have a motion?
I'll move to adopt resolution 22-01, approving the absence of board members from meetings of the Board of Education as presented. Second.
Ms. Cordero moves, Ms. Flores seconds. Roll call.
Mrs. Cordero? Aye. Mr. Lara?
Aye.
Mrs. Flores? Aye. Mr. Valencia?
Aye.
Mr. Hollingshead?
Aye.
Motion carries to adopt resolution 20-01. Item 7B, RFP number 5221, bread products. Mr. Beecher, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Lara. You see several items on the agenda tonight related to our National School Lunch Program, our nutritional services. To walk through each of those items, we have tonight. Also, respond to any any of the program-related questions you might have. We also have Carlos Muerta, coordinator.
Good evening, board members,
Good evening.
Superintendent Dr. McDuffie, welcome,
Thank you.
and Cabinet. This request for proposals calls for whole grain hamburger buns, hoagie rolls, dinner rolls, and sliced sandwich bread delivered district-wide in support of the district's nutritional service program. An RFP process was conducted for all of tonight's food service bids. The RFP process allows for the award to be made to the highest ranked firm as evaluated and scored by district staff, the evaluation panel, district staff evaluation. Although cost is a component of the scoring, the lowest bid may not always produce the highest ranked firm. The RFP process meets all of the requirements to ensure a fair, open, transparent, competitive procurement process. 4 prospective proposers downloaded the RFP application documents. 1 proposal was received from Edna's Bakery in San Luis Obispo, and it was opened on June 17th. The evaluation committee scored and evaluated the proposal. Edna's Bakery scored 99 points out of 100. They had a total net bid amount of $126,240. When we do have only 1 bid, we'll do a cost analysis to make sure that the bid that we received is fair and reasonable. Some of the resources that we use in doing this cost analysis is that we will compare our current costs with the proposed new costs, and then we also run index reports for the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, so the CPI and the PPI. When we did run the index, as you can imagine, there are quite a few increases. For this one, we looked at energy, eggs, fats, oils, products. All of them showed significant increases in costs. So although this price is more than we paid last year, we do feel that it is fair and reasonable considering the current environment that we are in, as well as the increases that we are seeing in those cost effects. So Edna's Bakery proposal meets all the requirements as outlined in the RFP documents and has been deemed responsive to the specifications. Therefore, we are recommending that the award for contract RFP 521 be awarded to Edna's Bakery in the amount of $126,240. This initial contract term is for 1 year with 2 optional 1-year renewals. We'll reevaluate at the end of the 1-year term to see if market conditions have changed. If there's a significant change, then we will consider taking them back out again.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, no, you go.
You got the floor, Mr. Hollinsworth.
I'm just curious, are the listed here district questionnaire, 10 possible points, is that going to be the same for each of these
It is.
RFPs?
Yeah.
Could you just briefly tell us what those questions are to differentiate? I mean, the other stuff is pretty straightforward, but
The district questionnaire, I do not have it on me. Do you all the questions that were in there? Yeah.
Good evening, board members. Superintendent McDuffie, my name is Carlos. Service. I do have an idea of most of the questions that we have. They were mostly related to making sure that the product was K-12. We have very specific restrictions, guidelines for nutrition for any product that we serve. So most of the questions were based on that, as well as do they have the equipment and the resources to deliver the product safely to our.
So I would assume then that they deliver directly to the school sites. They don't deliver here and we distribute.
That is correct, yes. The plan was to send it directly.
The other 3 perspectives, who were they? Or they just pulled and never filed?
We had another vendor had a contract last year. I believe that they had some accurate contact information, and they did not, or they didn't go in and receive documents. Others, they will put it down, they'll take a look at it. You have to have a correct requirements.
Yeah.
So a lot of times they'll put it down and they may not be able to meet those requirements. Where if it's all being done here, we may have had a response. But one of our requirements is that.
So on the optional renewals, if it goes up, then you'll just put it back out for bid again?
Yeah, we'll
See
take
for
a
best
look
bid,
at
or
it.
if their price drops, you still have to go back out to bid?
We have language in our bid documents that if the index drops, the expectation is that it's the district will see that benefit. So at the
Yeah.
end of 1 year, we'll take a look at it. We'll run those indexes, see what those costs come in at, and we'll go back and say, okay, we're showing these indexes on down. You need to justify why your price is at. Then we'll go through that process.
Okay. Any other questions? Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the award of a contract for RFP 5221 bread products to Edna's Bakery in the amount of $126,240 as presented.
I second.
Ms. Cordero moves, Ms. Flores second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The Board of Education approved the award of contract for RFP 5221 bread products to Edna's Bakery in the amount of $126,240 as presented. Item C, award of RFP 5221 fresh bakery products.
So this request for proposal calls for providing fresh bakery products, including cinnamon coffee cake, batter, apple and raspberry danishes, cinnamon rolls, and assorted muffins delivered directly, district-wide, directly to the school sites in support of the district's nutritional services program. This one, again, 3 prospective bidders downloaded the RFP solicitation documents, and 1 proposal from Edna's Bakery was received and opened on June 17th. The evaluation committee evaluated and scored the submitted proposal, and Edna's Bakery scored 8 out of 100 on this one. And again, we did perform the cost analysis using the same criteria as the previous board item. Edna's Bakery does meet all of the requirements as outlined in the RFP documents and is responsive to specifications. Therefore, staff recommends awarding a contract for RFP 522 for fresh bakery products to Edna's Bakery in the amount of $90,990.80.
Yes, Mr.
I'm sorry to sound pointed, but why are we ordering these calorie-laden sugar things that don't sound very nutritious to me?
Definitely, it's to provide a variety of more choices to the. It is even though it is a K-12 approved product, I do admit more than some of the items that we want and focus on the breakfast. However, we want to be feeding not the trash can. Some of the items that we keep serving for breakfast, we're only reaching 20-30% of the kids, and they're not grabbing. We're hoping that by providing a little variety, that will focus more on feeding these kids, and it'll gradually start introducing more nutrition. That was part of the strategy.
Thank you.
I'll move that the Board of Education approve the award of a contract for RFP 5222 fresh bakery products to Edna's Bakery in the amount of $90,990.18 as presented. I don't know how they can figure 18 cents. I don't get that.
I second.
Ms. Cordero moves, Ms. Flores second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No? Okay. Roll call, a 4-1 vote for awarding of the contract for RFP number 5221 fresh bakery products to Edna's Bakery in the amount of $90,990.18.
I think you said 5221 and it's
5222, excuse me.
Just want to make sure we don't end up in trouble for that.
Thank you.
And then is the next one the one that was pulled?
Yes.
Yes.
Item D was pulled. Item E, award of fresh sandwiches, RFP 5226.
Request for proposal calls for fresh made ham, turkey, chicken breast, salad, and chicken salad sandwiches to be delivered once a week to the school site, support of the district nutritional services program. Two prospective proposers downloaded the RFP documents, and one proposal was received from Food Incorporated of Santa Barbara County, located in Santa Maria. It was opened on June 17th. The evaluation committee board evaluated the submitted proposal. Food Incorporated received a 94 out of 100 points. They actually are our current provider for sandwiches, and I will say that their price stayed the same. They did not have a price increase. And their proposal meets all the requirements as outlined in the RFP document and is deemed responsive to the specifications. Therefore, staff is recommending awarding a contract for RFP 526 for fresh made sandwiches incorporated of Santa Barbara County in the amount of $57,780.
Questions?
I have a question, Mr. Lara.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Valencia.
I've heard of some research that suggests that ham and turkey processed meats or many processed meats in general, doesn't have to be just ham and turkey, that they're linked to carcinogens, which I believe are sometimes cancer causing. Have you all looked at any research regarding that? And if so, what was the outcome? Because I really appreciate Mr. Hollinshead, raising concerns around the nutritious value of our foods. And I want to make sure that we're providing our young people with the most nutritious, food available.
Thank you, Mr. Valencia. I'll answer that question. I have not done the research myself. I have heard about it, but I have not done the research myself. I can tell you that the product that we use on those sandwiches is USDA commodity product that we get directly from CDE as part of our commodity package. We do share those commodities with the vendors for us to provide a more K-12 approved product. Not every ham is different. Some of the hams are injected with different nutrients, different categories. And one thing that we can trust on USDA product, specific for K-12, is that those are clean label. Again, as far as the research, I haven't done it myself. I can see where you will be asking. Did that answer the question, Mr. Lara?
Thank you for that context. I definitely would appreciate some follow-up regarding whether highly processed meats are carcinogenic, and if they are, that if we are going to be feeding it to our children, that they be informed, right, of any health concerns regarding these foods. And that also relates to foods, of course, that are high in sweetness, like the pastries that were recently approved in the last vote. So, I'd like to request some additional information regarding the nutritious value, and just to ensure, right, that, if there are any concerns around the nutritious value, that our young people and families, be made aware, and that we as a board also be aware of the nutritious value so that we can make informed decisions. Thank you.
So I can get that information to you and the board.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions or a motion?
What is this, 52?
5226 E.
I'll move to approve.
Mr. Hollinshead moves.
I second.
Ms. Flores seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. The Board of Education approved the award of contract for RFP 5226 fresh made sandwiches to Food Incorporated of Santa Barbara County in the amount of $57,780 as presented. Item G, Award of RFP number 5232 Fresh Pizza and Delivery Service.
Request for proposal calls for a district-wide fresh baked delivery service in support of the district services program. Four prospective proposers downloaded the RFP presentation documents, and 2 proposals were received and opened on June 17th. The evaluation committee evaluated and scored all the proposals. An American West Restaurant Group, which is Pizza Hut, scored 98 out of 100, and Ocean Cities Incorporated, which is Domino's, scored 3 out of 100. Both proposals met the requirements as outlined in the RFP document, and both proposals scored within the competitive range and were deemed responsive to the specification. Therefore, staff is recommending awarding a contract to both American West Restaurant and Ocean City Incorporated for RFP 5232. We're looking to award to both due to the volume that we have. One vendor at times cannot support the volume that we have, so we want to have the ability to be able to go to one or the other or both in some cases.
These are for lunches periodically.
So I would like to talk about the strategy or the thought process about the pizza and the sandwiches. It's they're not meant for every school. They were meant for the junior highs. For the last few years, we've been having a challenge of trying to capture most of the junior high kids. We've been up all the way to 50%, but we still have another 50% that we have no idea where they eat. And since our campuses are closed, we definitely did the research out there with different junior highs, including Rialto, and they are moving, most high schools and junior highs are moving to provide several choices every day for our kids. And I definitely want to focus on scratch cooking. However, I have to pick whether we concentrate on scratch cooking or we outsource some of these items so we can provide all of these choices. So that is the thought process behind outsourcing some of the pizza and the sandwiches so we can concentrate on scratch cooking and provide more choices to our students.
Thank you. Questions?
I've been on campus, and if there's pizza, they seem to have it in their hand. A lot of them won't eat the other stuff, though. I know, on junior high school campuses. You're gonna have to give them tortillas and maybe rice, and but they can't hold those things, and you know, the things that we're used to in our homes. You know, we just can't put it in our hand and give it to them because it's cooked differently at the school sites. In order to provide what's not at their homes in terms of the normal meal that they're used to.
Yes, it is. A lot of the junior highs or high school will concentrate on selling those products. I really personally believe I don't like to do this on this socioeconomically disadvantaged environments because I don't want to invite any envy or any perception from any other kid saying that, well, he has money to buy. So I prefer just to offer all the choices that we have available and the resources that we have to every single kid that we can possibly reach.
I have a motion.
Mr. Rod, I have a question prior to.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Valencia. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Yeah, you know, when I first saw this item, I immediately began to think of my high school experience and how, you know, indeed, when I and even my experience at the high school level as a teacher, we know that many of our young people tend to gravitate towards foods that are not high in nutritional value. And so, you know, my first question, you know, might seem, you know, a bit, you know, strange, but, you know, my first question is pizza nutritious?
I have to say the product that we get is very specific for K-12. The pizza that we are receiving is in arrangement. It meets the K-12 standards that were basically last updated by the Obama administration. We don't sell the same pizza that you go to the store, it will be the same exact pizza. No, our pizza needs to be whole wheat grains, needs to be low sodium products, needs to be no butter, and a list of other restrictions that we are. As a general question, if you ask me if pizza is nutritious, oh yeah. But again, my experience with child nutrition is that sometimes I prefer to feed the kids and not the trash can.
And thank you for that context regarding low sodium, whole wheat. That's not information that I was aware of. And the reason I asked, is pizza nutritious, is because, our program is called the district's nutritional services program, right? So if pizza is not nutritious, then I want to make sure that we are, improving that, right? So that it actually, so that our name is not inconsistent. If our name is District Nutritional Service Program, let's make sure that our meals are actually nutritious. So it does sound like our pizza is a bit more nutritious than the average commercial pizza you can purchase. So that's good news. But I am interested in learning about what are other districts doing to promote healthy eating. Now, just like many families, I get it that, from time to time, families will take their children out to pizza, as a special treat. But I would hate to see the availability of pizza make it so that it normalizes unhealthy eating in our schools, as opposed to our schools teaching healthy eating. And so I would love for our district to consider more creative ways on how we can do that, because I also don't like seeing food thrown away in the trash, especially if that food is nutritious. But I do understand that we do want to give our young people, variety. So I'm hoping that we can engage our educational partners, especially our parents and our students, right, in this conversation around what we can do to promote healthier eating for our young people. Thank you.
In a motion?
I'll move that the Board of Education approve the award of a contract for RFP 5232, fresh baked pizza and delivery service to American West Restaurant Group and Ocean Cities Pizza, Inc., amounts of $54,510 and $65,550 respectively, as presented.
Second.
Ms. Cordero moves, Ms. Flores second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Motion carries to approve the award of the contract for RFP 5232. Thank you.
President Laura, we have a speaker for our next agenda item, Mark Palmerston.
Good evening, school board, Dr. McDuffie, cabinet, and the SMBSD community. I am Mark Palmerston, proud principal at Fessler Junior High. And this evening, I wanted to come and really share my honor to speak on behalf of our students, our parents, and our community in support of the proposal today to award the bid for our final step in the overall field and construction project for our locker room. And so, with appreciation to you guys as a board and our district staff, we may have taken a couple months more to bring the final parts of the project to you guys, but it's really a testament to the district staff coming back to our local staff and getting the project right. And so I just want to come and say thank you and the appreciation for that, but also what it means to our students in improving our instructional spaces for physical education, for our after school and during school athletic programs, and for the potential increased use of community space on campus. But I can't leave you without a comment from Mr. Nochi, because any conversation about the field or the field project, Mr. Nochi's comments got to be there. So I asked him to share if there's anything he'd like me to share on his behalf. And he said the following: the PE department is grateful to the district for completing this field and locker room restoration. This project gives our students a safe environment to perform their class activities and extracurricular activities during lunch and after school. We're proud that the community will also benefit from the facility improvements to our campus. Thank you for addressing our concerns. Doug Nochi, Professor Department, PE Department Chair. And so on behalf of Mr. Nochi, our students and staff, thank you. And by all means, come to see the progress and come see the final product soon. So thank you.
I
Thank
drive by
you.
it every day. I've been watching
Yeah,
it move a
I've
lot
been
of dirt
watching
and
it
everything. It's exciting. It's
Yeah.
it's
I keep saying, I hope it's ready when school starts.
It will be a process, and the process has been, as Mr. Nochi has given feedback over a long period of time, the couple months that it will take for the final pieces is small in comparison to the impact that will have on our kids over the many years ahead. So thank you, and from Mr. Nochi personally as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the words.
Okay, item H, award of bid number 5238, installation of 2 district-provided portable classrooms and site work at Fessler Junior High.
Project calls for the installation of 2 district-provided portable classrooms and site work at Fessler Junior High. The plans and specifications for the project were prepared by 1960 architect. Mandatory pre-bid conference was conducted, and 3 prime contractors attended. 1 bid was received from RDZ Contractors, and it was opened on July 12th. The base bid amount was $320,000. There was also an add alternate, which was for concrete in lieu of asphalt. That came in at $5,700. The total net bid amount is $325,700. The bid terms and conditions require that the low bid be based on the total net base bid amount only. However, we are recommending that we award both the base bid amount and the add alternate. RDZ Incorporated has been deemed as a responsive bidder, meets all the requirements outlined in the bid documents, and therefore we are recommending that bid 5238 be awarded to RDZ Contractors in the amount of $325,700. I will share with you that the engineer's estimate on this one was $350,000, so it does fall under that. Being that we only got 1 bid response, we do look at those engineer estimates to see if amount is fair and reasonable.
Is that asphalt for the, what, I mean, the concrete? Where's that, what's that for? To put the portables
So
on?
the base bid had asphalt underneath the portables.
Uh-huh.
We ended up wanting to go with an add alternate for concrete, just because if you're going to go with asphalt, you're going to have to bring an asphalt machine out, and you're already doing a lot of concrete around that portable. So that price of $5,000, $5,700 is a really good number to put concrete underneath the portable.
No, that's fine. I mean,
works
yeah,
out.
you're already pouring concrete. There's no
Yeah.
sense in coming in with asphalt.
Generally, asphalt is cheaper than concrete,
Yeah,
but
but-
again, if you're just going to bring a machine out just for a small piece of land, it really doesn't pencil out.
No.
When concrete is much more durable.
It is, yes,
I mean, it seems logical. It provides a better base.
it does. But you can put, I mean, asphalt does work well underneath portables as well.
But I don't, yeah, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
So these will be showers or just changing?
The intent is to have a room or a space for students to change. Yes, no water, no showers.
Just to connect to that question, Ms. Cordero, there were 2 portables out at Fessler previously that were basically installed on not really a platform, on the grass next to the gym.
Right.
It was quickly done and efficiently done. What Mr. Cavazos has proposed, along with the rest of the improvements that are going on out there, is to put newer buildings on a more appropriate foundation. So the entire system. That's what we're seeing here now, is the replacement of what's out there with something longer lasting.
Makes sense.
I agree. It's a great idea.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the award of contract for bid number 5238, installation of 2 district-provided portable classrooms and site work at Fessler Junior High to RDZ Contractors, Inc. in the amount of $325,700. $700 upon presentation of bonds.
I second.
Ms. Cordero moves, Ms. Flores seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. To approve the award of contract for bid 5238, installation of 2 district-provided portable classrooms and site work at Fessler Junior High to RDZ Contractors, Inc. in the amount of $325,700 upon presentation of bonds is presented. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Discussion item A, review of AR 5123. Promotion, acceleration, retention. Ms. Dutra, good evening.
Good evening, Board Superintendent McDuffie. We have Brian Zimmerman tonight to talk to you about 2 board policy changes that need to come before you. So he'll have those for you in 1 sec. Brian?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So I'm going to go over, our board policy, our administrative regulations from AR 5123, dealing with promotion, acceleration, retention, dates back to 1999. So we are updating this and giving it a little bit of a facelift. Taking out, there was wording in there that dealt with STAR testing, which we no longer do, so cleaning that up. I think someone set the mic for Carlos. I guess I gotta bring this down, sorry. Also, it eliminated the words at risk of retention. We're moving towards not attaining acceptable levels of academic achievement, so we've wiped out all the language that deals with at risk of retention, and also really firming up what the appeal process looks like. So the AR has really streamlined the retention process, and if students are below minimum standard, then they'll be retained in the current grade level unless a teacher puts something in writing determining that it's not in their best decision. And we do have forms for that. It is form, I have it here. So it's form 1570 if students are at the end of the year determined not to be at grade level and they aren't meeting those requirements. There is a form for them to fill out. But they are notified as early on in the school year with Form 1565, letting parents know that the students are at risk of retention. So they are aware of they need to be provided remediation and be able to be given those opportunities to increase their academic performance during the year. And the appeal process has really been cut down. It used to go from the teacher to the principal to the superintendent's designee to the superintendent, and this has really cut down. I'm not going to go through the timelines with everything, but it's really it's gone from the teacher appealing the determination by the teacher to the superintendent's designee, which would be me, and then at that point, if they don't like it, they would appeal to the board. So we don't have many retentions in the district, so it's not really much of a it's not a really contentious. We don't have many. I'm going to knock on wood when I say it, but we don't have many appeals because a lot of times teacher, parents, administrators, everybody's on the same page and they're all in agreement with what needs to happen next. Okay, and that is AR 5123. Are there any questions?
I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
Okay. So in looking at this process, actually on the very first page, after all, everything has been lined through, retention at other grade levels. If a student is identified as performing below the minimum standard for promotion to the next grade level based on the indicators specified in board policy, I want to know where those indicators are in the board policy.
Well, and So we are going to, that's going to be the next one up, is to update that board policy. But right now, the indicators that we do use for retention, one of them is, besides the classroom assessments, the formative assessments that they're doing, they also use the Lights retention scale as a district. So that is something that everyone uses, and it basically rates the kids on, are they a good retention candidate, but based on the number of points, they ask a number of questions.
So is that somewhere in policy?
Does it spell it out in board policy? No, but that is one of the consistent procedures that we have.
So is that going to be added as another part of the administrative regulation? Because without that in here, it doesn't, I knew nothing, as a parent might know nothing about it. I would look at that and then say, okay, show me where it says what the criteria is in board policy. So I appreciate that what we had is outdated, but it is way more specific. It refers to the STAR test, which of course we aren't using, but some other, it indicates that we're looking at multiple things to make the determination. And I think that's really critical when having that conversation with parents, both as a teacher and as an administrator, to have something in writing. So that's one thing.
Yeah.
And then in the appeal process, down the very last sentence, if the superintendent or the designee, which would likely be you, determines that the parent guardian has overwhelmingly proven that the teacher's decision should be overruled, what does that mean?
So the burden of proof for retention falls on the parent to say that the teacher is not correct. The language that we're using is adopted by CSBA, so this is a language that we're putting into the administrative regulation. What I put here in this, but really it supports the fact that when it comes to retention, the burden of proof falls on the parent to say the teacher is absolutely wrong. When it comes to my level, I have to fine tooth comb it as well. And it's one of those things where, as I tell parents when I meet with them, I'm Switzerland. It's like, I'm not here to support this side or this side. I'm here to do what's right for the kid and make sure that it's fair. And retention's a big.
So if a parent, is in the process and they came to you and said, so how would I be able to present overwhelming evidence?
Well, I would say so for example, if we wanted to accelerate a student, when we go back to our policy for how to accelerate a student, we have to show that this student is achieving at the top, in the top percentile within their classroom. They're emotionally able to do it. They are, they fit these criteria. They're a good fit. So if a parent came in and showed me and said, look at these test scores, look at what they're doing. These are formative tests, and they're up here at this level. Why are we going with retention? I'd say absolutely, you're correct. I don't support the retention, and we would overturn it at that point. So it's a matter of they would provide data. All the decisions we make are based on data, and when a teacher sits down, the principals are involved. I know this AR is taking the principals out of the conversation, but anytime there's a retention, the principal's involved with it because it's their school, and they want to make sure that they're not going to, because they know that the parent's going to be upset, it's going to come to them as well. So they're a part of that process too. So it's going to have lots of eyes on it before it makes it to my desk.
But the clarity needs to be a little clearer. I think overwhelmingly proven. Could there be examples? Or, it just seems so judgmental on who's ever reviewing it at the time.
In the past, we haven't gotten super specific on what it looks like, but I think if we can look at verbiage, if it's overwhelmingly, we could, I think there are some shifts that we can make with that language to make it seem a little less strong. Yeah. Well, yeah, but we can take out some of those words and wordsmith it that way. But it does, the burden of proof for an appeal does fall on the parent to show that the teacher's decision was not correct, and they need to provide something to say why it wasn't.
And I
Strong
understand.
indications that the,
Right.
Yeah,
something to that order that
Yeah.
overwhelmingly is a little,
yes,
gotcha.
yeah.
That's all I have.
My only question, Brian, is what, because this is, I mean, since it hasn't been since 1999, I think, I think all of us remember going through school and this, being kind of one of those things that was kind of vague, and why did so-and-so get, held back, or whatever we used to say when we were kids. And so I'm just curious, because also I think the literature hasn't really necessarily supported retention very strongly. So I'm just curious if there's any current literature that indicates any kind of longitudinal effect for negative or positive for retention of an individual or student.
The most recent that I've read is it does help towards the beginning, but then it starts to plateau at the end, and it really doesn't, it does not help. So when there are appeals like this, which we have had one in the past, I usually provide parents with that literature and say, this is the research that we have. And then we have a discussion about it. We talk about best interest of the student, and we look at, what's best for them, and then make the determination.
I vaguely remember the rating scale.
The lights.
And I realized that putting that into board policy or referring to that, makes it more susceptible to becoming outdated as the years go by. But could it be used as an example of something that we are currently using?
I believe the way around that, and you're absolutely correct, when you label it as something, and then we stop using it, we have to go back and revise it.
Right.
I think I can come up, when I present it next month at the next meeting, what I'll do is I'll put together, and I'll run through Dr. McDuffie, but looking at some kind of multiple measures, something to that effect, multiple measures of data that will support a retention.
That might just say, not refer to CASP or specific type
Be
of
general.
testing, but be general,
Yes.
Standardized testing, that kind of thing.
Yes.
If I were a parent and were concerned about my child, this would be the first thing that I would go to look at, especially if I really felt strongly. But the majority of parents that I ever had any experience with, both as a teacher and an administrator, the foundation was built and information provided over the course of the entire year that, these were things that needed to be worked on and weren't happening like they should. When you do that, then you don't have to worry about the appeal or whatever, because you're implementing all of those strategies and tools to ensure, not only for yourself, but for the parent, that really you are making the best decision for the student. Because as John has said, there is not overwhelming evidence beyond second grade that retention really will make any difference.
And that's why in the AR, it is stressed that parents are notified as soon as possible when when teachers do see a problem, to notify them immediately, so we can start to put a game plan in place to get them help.
I really would like to see some, for example, of what kind of information would be used to move toward that determination.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Have any other questions? Mr. Valencia?
None at this time. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, I'll acknowledge the review of the administrative regulations presented and request administration to return the item for action at the next regular board meeting. Item B, review of VPAR 5141-.21, administering medication and monitoring health conditions. Dutra or?
Board, thank you. I just want to say a thank you to Mr. Zimmerman for this board policy. Did a lot of research and study with other districts around the state to really dig down and make sure that this was a solid BP because it's very new. And so I just want to thank him for that diligence so that we have something in front of you that we feel very confident about. So thank you for that, Mr. Zimmerman. It's all yours.
Thank you. Yes, and this is something new, but we have talked with the high school district. Santa Maria Joint is on board with this one. They're revising theirs too, and it's looking just like ours as well as Orchid. So everyone is starting to move this way. So the board policy, AR is a little bit more, a little bit longer, but this one is really making sure that we have. As you know, last year there were some issues with students and fentanyl and being transported to the hospital. And it's super scary for kids that young to be dealing with those kinds of things. So making sure that we have something to counteract these substances when they enter a kid's system, and being able to respond quickly and not having to get them, not waiting for 911 to come and pick them up. So making sure that we have these supplies on campus, making those available. There will be, as Carolyn Kleinsmith, our program specialist for health services, will be in charge of the training. She'll be in charge of ordering the supplies, making sure that they're safe, secure, training the volunteers who are going to be administering it, and making sure that our kids are safe. So the other one in this one that might raise some eyebrows, but I'm going to explain, hopefully relieve some stress. Looking at our old board policy, there were two options. So years ago, I think may have been 2 years ago when we revised it. I'm trying to go off the top of my head, but there were two options on medical cannabis and parents administering it to their children. Eyebrows are starting to go. Okay, so we decided to go with no, they should not be able to do that. However, looking as time has progressed, there's been new legislation passed, and there's some codes. Health and Safety Code 1316.5 says that nurses may administer, if it's part of a kid's treatment plan, they may administer this medication to students, and there will be no disciplinary consequences for them. So if nurses are able to do it on campus and as part of a kid's treatment to make sure that they're getting the medication that they need, it's not, just to clarify, it's not something that they're going to be smoking or vaping or anything else. It's something that is ingested, and it'll be under the control of the parent or the nurse to administer to the kid. How many do we have in the district? Hasn't happened. However, as times, and if you would ask me how many fentanyl things have happened, 5 years ago, 0. However, times change. So we're just trying to be ahead of the curve on this one and make sure that we are changing with the times and making sure that we're not revising this every single year. We got it knocked out for a while, and it'll be good. So
my only question regarding the administering the medical marijuana or cannabis is, for other medications, there is verbiage that allows for a trained person at the site, which for us would likely be a health assistant and maybe someone in the office.
Sometimes a teacher or classified.
Will that also?
No.
That will not be an option.
No, it's parent or nurse. Yep.
Okay.
Period.
Yep.
Thank you. I personally
no, I agree with you.
would not feel comfortable nor want to be doing that, although other medications that are prescribed, I don't, never mind.
I got you.
Any other comments, questions? Mr. Valencia?
None at this time. Thank you very much.
Wanted to kind of echo what Melissa said. I know we've in the past had a lot of these different things come, and it's over several years, these different things kind of pop up, and this is really comprehensive and a really, really detailed, great job that you put this together, Brian. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
based on looking at the dates, it's only been a couple of years since we did revise it.
Yeah,
It says July 22nd, 2020.
almost to the date.
Well, I'll acknowledge the review of the board policy and administrative regulations as presented and request administration to return the item for action at the next regular board meeting. Thank you, Mr. Zimmerman.
No, what, I'm sorry. I do have one more question. Further, and it has, there's in a couple of places, a school may accept gifts, grants, donations, blah, 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 in carrying out the requirements, including but not limited to the acceptance of epinephrine, auto injectors, and then in another place it says something, for the anti-opioid one, that we can receive those as gifts. And who would be giving them to us?
So in the past, we actually, when EpiPens first started, kind of stock EpiPens that we got for the kids that were dealing with anaphylaxis, we did receive, there were organizations that were giving them to schools.
Okay.
And so we were able to secure them through that. Not that we're going to be out doing car washes for these. So that's not what we're going to be doing.
Okay. I just read that and I thought, really?
No, so some do, some have given them away. It's kind of like the COVID.
An organization or maybe even
Makes sense.
some doctor, I guess, could want to do that, but I assume we have a way of verifying that it's actual.
Absolutely,
Okay.
yes.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
Okay. Well, again, I'll repeat. I acknowledge the review of the board policy and administrative regulation is presented and request administration to return the item for action at the next regular board meeting. Item C, DLI instructional coach and program development. Dr. McDuffie, do we have speakers?
Yes,
on that one?
President Laura, we have a speaker that will be in Zoom. Name is Angel or Angel Lopez. Okay.
Good evening, Angel.
Hello, good evening. Are we okay to start?
Yes.
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Angel Lopez. I'm an associate organizing supervisor with Future Leaders of America. Before beginning my comment, I would like to take some time to welcome this new superintendent, Dr. Darren McDuffie, here today. Well, I'd like to start us off by, saying that I'm here today to support of the expansion of dual language immersion program. I am a proud product of the K-12 public education system here in Santa Maria, and I'm very glad that such a program is available for our local families. And I definitely would like to see it be expanded. Dual language immersion programs are proven to be successful and has led to students who participate in this program to outperform their peers in the English only programs, right? The current lottery intake process results in about 50% admission rate. And well, given both the program success and the high rejection rate, it's clear that demand for dual language immersion programs is high here in our city. When we take in consideration the demographics of Santa Maria, which consists of majority of immigrant and indigenous communities, dual enrollment programs are essential for the continued success of immigrant students and will help them better prepare for their educational journey. I really would like to take the time to urge everyone to support our young people in opening up their opportunities by supporting and investing further in a dual language immersion program. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. That speaker was for actually item F, although they spoke there, it had on our document item C. So I just want to say that's for the DLI discussion. Okay. We had that public comment.
So we have both of them for F.
But we have one more for the DLI comment. We can do it now. Or we can wait until we have the discussion.
Like to wait for the discussion for the second?
I'd be open to hearing it now since the job description is related to DLI work, to dual language immersion. So I'm open to hearing that comment if they're already ready to go.
Yeah, and they don't have to wait.
Okay, yeah, then they don't have to wait. Sure.
Okay, so we're ready for the next public comment. Will be Daniel Feliz Gonzalez.
Good evening, Daniel.
Daniel, are you there?
Yeah, hopefully y'all can hear me.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Santa Maria Bonita School Board. My name is Daniel Gonzalez, Organizing Director with Future Leaders of America. I'm also here today to support the expansion of the dual language immersion program. Coming from an immigrant family, I know how difficult it can be to learn English while speaking Spanish at home, and dual language immersion programs are vital in the development of youth with similar backgrounds. Dual language immersion programs are a way for students to learn academic content, math, science, social studies, English, while also learning to speak and read and write in another language. Research shows that dual language students outperform their peers in English-only programs. Students in dual immersion programs have high levels of self-esteem, high academic competence, and motivation. Students are also better prepared for the global job market, where a second language gives them the competitive edge. Dual language programs are essential for the continued success of immigrant students and will help them to be better prepared for their educational journey. In Santa Maria, this program will definitely benefit the student population that we serve at Future Leaders. So I urge you all to please expand the dual language immersion programs so that more youth and their families can benefit from these courses. Thank you.
Thank you. Item C, ELI Instructional Coach and Program Development, post a job description. Good evening, Ms. Beltran.
Good evening, Board President Lara, board members, Superintendent Dr. McDuffie, Cabinet and Community. Tonight we bring forward this job description for a DLI Instructional Coach and Program Development, TOSA. As you can see from this summary, this position is unique currently to the DLI program at Jimenez School and would be shared between the school site and the district. And the intention is that it would support all DLI programs in the Santa Maria Bonita School District. The purpose of this position is to support the unique coaching needs of our DLI teachers, as well as to support the ongoing development of the DLI curriculum for the regular school year, as well as during expanded learning opportunities. As you know from our teacher development program, Jimenez School also plays a critical role as we grow our recruitment efforts for biliterate educators in support of the district's DLI aspirations. Placement of biliterate student teachers at the school site often represents a higher number than other schools in the district, and therefore additional support is needed. I do have the Director of Teaching and Learning Core with me, Jennifer Loftus, to answer any further questions that you may have.
Good evening, Ms. Loftus.
Good evening.
Ms. Loftus, can you, maybe I didn't read closely enough, I thought I did, but can you kind of maybe suss out a little bit what that shared position will look like as far as being on campus and then articulating here with the, because I think with the district office, because one of the concerns expressed by some of the parents was that a lot was being thrust upon the campus and that there wasn't really a connection or coordination with the district.
Absolutely. We envision this position living at least probably 80% of the time at the school site level, specifically at Jimenez, but also at various other sites when we think about our TK expansion and the transition from pre-K into our TK programs moving forward, and really wanting to sustain or maintain that dual immersion environment with our youngest learners across the system. However, specific to Jimenez, it is true. It does take more to run a DLI program, a school within a school. And while we have an ELD coach and an instructional coach at that site, like we do at all other elementary sites in the district, there is a specialized, a need for that specialized expertise specific to that DLI program to be available at Jimenez to support the teachers in the DLI program.
I got the 80% part then, right? And that was why I asked the question. I think because one of the concerns or just part of the discussion with parents of current students and prospective students was that connection with and coordination with the district. And one of my concerns or thoughts about that too was that we might not be thinking big enough as far as dealing with what some of the issues are on that one campus, but that maybe a coordinator position or a larger position presence here would be something that would be more robust and have the capacity to expand pretty nimbly as we sought to do it or seek to do it in the future. And the example that I think of is in San Diego, they went ahead and created a VAPA coordinator position for their, I think it was actually the county, but it may have been their district. Before they had a lot of those different structures in place, but with the vision that was there to help create that. So I feel like that we may not quite be thinking big enough. I mean, maybe I'm not perceiving this correctly, but that we could think bigger, because I think that would help us to include any expansion in DLI, but also really broaden the scope of how we look at the English Learners Roadmap and its application and the pathways on all the campuses, because that's part of what we're trying to do, is really impart the benefits of all this structure and these means of delivery to all our students. So I think it gives us a chance to kind of be more aspirational and think more broadly. So I mean that's just a comment, but for what it's worth.
One thing I would share, if you don't mind, is that we did add a second multilingual TOSA position in the last school year. And while we weren't able to fill that previously, going into the next school year, we will have both of those individuals in place. And those particular TOSAs are in support of both what's happening at Jimenez in the DLI and non-DLI program, but also supporting schools across the system with those efforts that you're speaking to. And I do believe that this is a starting place, and we are wanting to think big, and this will likely need to grow too. We also wanted to be able to support the immediate needs that they have at the campus at Jimenez right now, and to begin to ensure that we are, as we think about moving forward and expanding our program, really making sure that we tighten up and have a program that we know that we want to duplicate across the system as we grow. And so this particular position will be very helpful in doing that work. So when we think about the small percentage of time that's spent working out of this building, it's really tightening up those programmatic pieces based on what this individual learns from working at the site.
Well, and in fairness to the students that aren't in the DLI program and the other staff, I think that's something that's will be beneficial on that campus too, because I know that there's probably that dichotomy of staff where feel like they're a school within a school, and maybe Mr. Ruiz doesn't necessarily get to attend to things as completely as he might if he has this help. So
and it has been a request from the site, right? This is definitely meeting a need that they have expressed. They have.
Mr. Hollins, just to let you know, we'll be talking more about that and the next steps in regards to DLI in later on in the board meeting as well. So
I would just like to point out that with the addition of the dean at Jimenez and this teacher on special assignment, in addition to the instructional and ELD coaches there, it really does at least double the kind of support there. And I would tend to agree with Ms. Loftus that really tightening up parameters of DLI and really defining, the curriculum and the strategies that are most effective when are able to expand, then we can expand the position to the district level also. But if you're not on the site and can't be in those classrooms, pretty much even on a daily basis, it's hard to know what is working and what doesn't and what the needs are, etc. So this, I appreciate the point that we do want to think bigger, but I think this definitely expands from where we're at right now.
I don't want them to burn out yet.
Right.
Yeah. It's a lot to do.
Well, and I don't know that, I don't know how many BCLAD teachers we still have, in our district, but they're not flocking to Jimenez to work in the DLI program. And perhaps, if there were examples and information available that might help them feel more comfortable with their ability to move into that, we might be able to even develop some resources that might already be available to us. A possibility.
I have a question related to Ms. Cordero and Mr. Hollinshead's previous points. What, if any, is our recruitment plan to have more qualified teachers and support staff to meet the needs of our DLI program? It's really clear to me from conversations with students, with parents, with the high school students that I worked with that are alumni of our district, that having the ability to speak more than one language is a high priority in our community. So I'm really happy to see that we're dedicating some additional resources to make that happen. But do we have currently a recruitment plan in place to ensure that we have enough qualified teachers and staff to meet the growing need?
Yes, Mr. Valencia, we absolutely do. And if you don't mind, I'll go into a little bit more detail in a few moments when I provide the DLI update.
Excellent, thank you. Some follow-up questions that I have is, what is the process like to come up with this new job description? From my understanding, it's a new position in our district. What process do you all do to create this position? Like who's a part of it? Do we model it from what other districts are doing that are successful? Do we come up with that on our own? Which staff work on it? What is that process?
Happy to answer that question as well. Specific to this position, we had a core position already in place. We had the instructional coach job position that we adopted many years ago and have enhanced along the way. And so we started with that job description, and then we started researching other job descriptions that were in alignment with this that existed in other districts across the state. And then really just sat them down and looked at what's captured there that's not captured in the job description we have now. And then also taking all of that good feedback from the site leadership team around what they were looking for, as well as feedback that we've been collecting over the course of the year about how we could potentially really start building out our DLI program across the system. What would it look like in order to do that? And then what support do we need in order to move forward? And those concepts were captured in this job description that was then shared with the team, the instructional services team, to get input.
Gotcha. By any chance, were any teachers, parents, students consulted at all for the job description? Particularly folks involved with the DLI program?
There are teachers that are consulted with that have been throughout the year. Their feedback has been collected informally, and there are teachers on the teaching and learning core team that provided feedback as well. Beyond that, for this specific job description, we did not capture additional feedback. The position was created in response to a need that had been expressed by the school site and by the desire of the board to move forward sooner with our expansion efforts for DLI. And so this is a first read this evening, and we're happy to get any feedback that anyone has to provide on this job description, and it will be shared beyond with others after this evening as well.
Excellent. One of the things that I wanted to recommend for the experience and education, and this relates to what I just heard from the previous two speakers as well, is it seems like they one, I think it was Angel Lopez specifically, he said he's a proud product of our district. And it reminds me of how essential it is to have somebody in this position who understands the challenges and the opportunities that come with being bilingual or trilingual. So I wanted to recommend that we add language in our job description where under the category of education and experience to say personal experience, knowing the challenges and opportunities that come with learning a new language, bilingual or trilingual preferred. Because I think it is essential to have somebody with the experience of knowing how difficult it is to know another language. I from personal experience, I can tell you when I did studying abroad in Brazil, I was studying Portuguese, and having the foundation in Spanish was able to help me to learn some Portuguese, but it is definitely not easy. It was a good reminder to know how tough it is for our children every day who are learning English for the first time. And so I think having somebody in that position who understands that from personal experience will be essential for them to be additionally successful. I think it will enhance the chances of them being successful. So that's something that I want to recommend, is that we amend the job description to include, quote, personal experience, knowing the challenges and opportunities that come with learning a new language, and preferably someone who's bilingual or trilingual.
Thank you for that feedback.
Any other questions? You. Move on to item D, P3 Program Specialist Job Description. Ms. Beltran, good evening.
Good evening. So this program specialist for P3 is work to support our transition to transitional kinder and kindergarten, but also to support the early learning needs of our 3-year-olds. We are looking to ensure a robust system of support for children birth to 3. As these dreams become a reality, there is a need to oversee the subcontractors of the California State Preschool Grant, as they will become the actual providers of our youngest children. And it will be really important to make sure that there's vertical articulation and alignment with teacher preschools across our geographic region. That this will comprise the majority of this position. And then the second major body of work is supporting the coherence across the grade levels, specifically TK, transitional kindergarten to 3rd grade. Some of this work has started. For example, recently pre-K and TK teachers have worked to align practices such as instruction, assessments, and outcomes between pre-K and transitional kindergarten. And this process unveiled where gaps existed that were previously unknown. So this program specialist will support this specific work across the grade levels through 3rd grade, and then we'll also expand to collaboration with program specialists for special education to ensure that inclusive practices are supported, and with the coordinator parent engagement to bring the same type of alignment to the partnerships we build with our parents. Jennifer Loftus may speak greater to any questions that you have, but this is a job description I believe we had wanted to bring forward earlier, but we are now presenting it to you for your review and any questions and suggestions that you may have.
Questions? Valencia?
Yes, something that I did want to mention is an appreciation that within the, at the top where it says brief description of position, it talks about the importance to, that part of that the job description includes to disrupt inequities, address bias, and promote equitable opportunity. And that language really stood out to me, particularly in light of our policy that we have around diversity, equity, and inclusion. And it just reminded me of how important that all of our staff, you know, from every single level within our structure, that they be staff that are constantly thinking about that, right? In what ways are we removing any potential barriers, right, to our young people's having the best opportunities possible? So I just wanted to appreciate that language within the job description, because particularly from our leadership staff, you know, we need to have folks who are conscious of any of those types of biases or things that get in the way of opportunity for our young people. So I wanted to just give a shout out for that language that's there. A clarification that I did want to make is when it says at the top classification, certificated management, can you all clarify for me and also for the public, what does that mean when you're certificated management?
A program specialist is a manager position, and so certificated management is someone who has a credential. They're a certificated employee. They were previously perhaps a teacher, but they now have an administrative credential or a certificate of eligibility to get their preliminary administrative credential, and it is a management position. So that's why it's called certificated management. To have the opposite of that, you have classified management, such as my coordinator of classified human resources is a classified manager. So if that helps distinguish between the two. Any other clarification, Mr. Valencia?
No, thank you very much.
Just want to make sure. Thank you.
No other questions? Thank you. We will move to item E.
So this position was created as a result of feedback shared through LCAP and wanting to provide our 17 elementary school sites with counseling services for our students. And the title of the position is Elementary School Counselor and Coordinator of Student Services, but it is a certificated position. It is not a management position, but these individuals will be counselors to meet the increased social emotional learning needs of students, but also to make sure that our students are being able to access all district provided mental health resources, such as our outreach mentors, our MFTs, our family advocates. We want to make sure that they're always being best utilized. And so they will be working to coordinate those services are in fact being provided to students. They're going to be a critical team player, as you see at school sites, social emotional learning, instruction implementation, MTSS, multi-systems of support work, including the cost process, PBIS implementation, and they will be a leader on school culture climate teams as a member of the certificated classification. So each elementary site our goal is that each elementary site will receive one full FTE, including Jimenez TK8. And Jennifer can answer additional more specific questions if you'd like. This is work that Teaching and Learning Instructional Services put together in response to that counseling need.
In looking at this job description, I looked, under the qualifications and had to look a couple of times before I realized that the goal is to have one at each of our elementary sites, which includes Jimenez. I'm still lumping them in the element. Don't tell them that though. And the pupil personnel services credential is required, but a California teaching credential is only preferred.
Right. That is in response to a growing number of counseling candidates that come from a variety of different bachelor backgrounds and do not choose to go into education as teachers prior to becoming counselors. So we want to make sure that we can encompass all of available counselors that are out there from wanting to service students. But as a high school administrator, I experienced many times where we had someone who just had the PPS credential and didn't have a teaching background. So we put that as preferred, but not necessary, not eliminate any possible candidates.
And I guess my second question is, how likely is it that we can fill every one of these positions?
I would say that it is most definitely going to be a challenge for the 22-23 school year. However, I've been outreaching to universities and we have a position currently placed on the website. And tomorrow we will also repost it as just counseling eligibility pool.
I can tell you I have 5 applicants since we posted counselors out there, and we've advertised it, and it's going to be out on the radio for our Job Seeker Expo this Friday and Saturday. So we're getting the word out, and we will do everything in our power to secure as many great candidates and new counselors for our district for the 22-23 school year. But I would say I can't promise 17 of them, but by 23-24, they'll all be filled.
And outreach mentors and marriage and family therapists would have that. Most of them would have that credential, wouldn't they?
They would. I'm not certain as they're outside agencies.
I say that
but
with a question mark because I've really never asked that specific question to any that I know, but it seems, I mean,
I think that's necessarily the case.
I would say it's a likely path for some, and I only say that because when we've filled counseling vacancies in the last 3 years that I've been here, a few of them have come from the outreach mentor ranks.
They have some kind of certification that is a college level,
right?
But I'm not sure what it is called. So, okay.
Thank you.
A lofty goal, which would be very nice.
Yes.
I have a follow-up question related to what Ms. Cordero was just bringing up. One of the concerns that I've heard from a parent is that some of our counselors are interns, or a significant portion of them are interns, that some of those interns often don't stay within our school district. And so there was concern around making sure that the counselors that we do have working with our young people, instead of being interns, that they be fully qualified counselors. Can you share with us a little bit more about that? To what extent is there a high number of interns that are doing counseling work? How often do they actually stay in our district? And is that, is that concern something that we need to continue to be mindful of the fact that perhaps we have a high number of interns as opposed to fully qualified counselors working with our young people?
So in order for us to hire and pay a counselor that's on an intern credential, it is as a result of recruitment efforts that did not, we were not able to find a fully credentialed counselor at the time, or they are finishing up their educational program and all they need is what's equivalent to not student teaching, but the specific number of hours working with counselors. And so their educational institution allows them to work as an intern. I know that we placed one because we had a counselor on the reduced work share program, and they worked the first half of the year and then they did not work the second half of the year. But they're finishing up. There's also counselors that do volunteer work with counselors. They're not hired and they're not paid, but our goal is always to have a fully credentialed counselor with our schools. But just like with teachers, at times we find ourselves having to bring someone who has a provisional intern permit while they're finishing up their educational requirements for the credential. But we do so because we have not found another candidate, and we still need to have that position filled to support our sites and our students. And so that is the purpose behind hiring someone with an intern credential. I hope that answers your question. Please let me know if you need anything else.
Yeah, that somewhat helps. Do you happen to know percentage-wise what percentage of our counselors are interns? Is it 50%? Is it 10%? Do you have any data on that?
I can tell you that at Tommy Kunst, all 3 counselors are fully credentialed at this time. Wrestler the same. I believe it was Ariana's where we had 1 on an intern credential. Tommy Kunst, don't believe she was on an intern credential for the first half of the year, but I could be mistaken. And El Camino had fully credentialed counselors that I'm aware of.
And what about at the elementary school level?
We Till this job description gets approved, we have not had counselors working on our elementary school sites outside of the outside agencies. And when I say outside agencies, I mean the outreach mentor, the NFTs, and the FOAs.
And in your experience, what are the pros or cons of hiring outside agencies to meet that need for our elementary students?
I have to tell you, I find that Santa Maria Bonita School District provides a lot of resources, including the outside agencies. From my prior experiences, we did not have all of those positions in Monterey Peninsula, that they were working to get those outside agencies. And in my high school experience in Oxnard Union High School District, we had outside counselors and therapists that would come in to provide additional supports for students, such as anger management, grief counseling, and other groups. And they would provide those services through El Concilio and other agencies. So I believe that anytime we can support our students with wraparound services, we are doing the best for our students. I believe that this new position is to ensure that we have these counseling services at every one of our elementary school sites.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like it's a really good idea for the counselors that we hire, for us to be doing the hiring as much as possible, in addition to working with community agencies and partners, of course. But then we also have, right, an evaluation process, right, for those counselors, right? Hopefully additional support for those counselors to be successful. And so I'm really happy to see that we are promoting fully qualified counselors, so that our young people have highly skilled, right, support staff to help them meet their social emotional needs. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Mr. Valencia. Absolutely. Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Yep, thank you. Yep.
Thank you all.
Item F, DLI program update. Ms. Dutra.
So thank you, board members. We are so excited putting this together for you tonight. There's great things happening at Jimenez, and there's so much potential and possibility for the other things we can do throughout the district. So thank you to the staff at Jimenez, who's really trailblazed this work for us, and that allows expansion to occur. So we thank them for all of their hard work, and we're excited to have Ms. Loftus present to you a little bit of a update on what's happening at Jimenez and really looking towards the future. Ms. Loftus.
Good evening. Thank you. I am excited to share this information. I know you've been anxiously awaiting some updates around DLI. I would like to start with just a little bit of context around the history of our DLI program at Jimenez. I know many of us are very familiar with it, but not necessarily everyone. And so a little historical information might be helpful. We know that our DLI program is still somewhat young. It's a young program that started back in 2015 and started as a K-6 program that we are expanding upon. And as you're aware, we've transitioned each year, adding an additional grade level. We are at the point now where that in this upcoming school year that's just about to begin, we will have 7th graders experiencing the DLI program, and then we would complete our continuum in 8th grade the following year, that 23-24 school year. As the chart represents for you on the right, you can see that we've added 2 sections to each grade level since the Jimenez DLI program opened in 2015. When we think about DLI programs, we have to keep in mind that there's lots of different programs and lots of different designs. The team that met to develop the master plan for Jimenez decided on what's called a two-way DLI program. That piece of information is important to understand. When we think about replicating what we have at Jimenez, we need to dig in just a little bit to what it means to have a two-way DLI program. Two-way simply means that we have a balance of learners in the classroom. We would have, in a DLI two-way program, 50% of our students in a classroom would be native Spanish speakers, and the other 50% would be native English speakers. Our goal would be the 50-50, but we would never want to go less than a third. And in that case, we might look at a third native speaking English, a third native speaking Spanish, and perhaps a third that would be students who are already bilingual starting in kindergarten. At the program at Jimenez, which is similar to many and most two-way DLI programs, students enter the program in kindergarten into the first half of first grade. If I'm a student entering the second half of first grade and I'm a native Spanish speaker, my literacy in Spanish can be assessed and I can still be placed in that program later in my first grade year. But we're really looking at placing the students in the program, ideally starting in kindergarten and allowing them to continue each year thereafter, progressing with their skills. Not only is the Jimenez program a two-way DLI program, it's also a 90-10 model. There are several different models of DLI programs that some are 50-50, some are 80-20, others 90-10. What we know from the research is that the highest levels of achievement in literacy in both English and Spanish come from programs where the students experience a 90-10 model and experience that program for the length of time that it's intended. And so when we look at Jimenez, the way our 90-10 model is designed, our kindergarten and first grade students experience 90% of their learning in Spanish and 10% in English. It drops to 80-20 in second grade and continues to very gradually, the increments go to until we get to fifth grade, where it is a 50-50, 50% English, 50% Spanish. If you might want to think about what does that actually look like in a student's day, and so I just want to provide a snapshot. This is a kindergarten or first grade learning day, and what you can see is that, again, the majority of the day is taught in Spanish, but a small ELD is taught in English. And then this, on this particular slide, this is what it looks like over time for one of our students in a DLI program. You can see that the red spots get shorter and shorter each year, and the blue, where we're teaching the content in English, gets gradually a little more significant until we get to 50-50 in fifth grade. As we have been working to add on the 7th and 8th grade students, we have to think very carefully about what our 6 through 8 instructional design looks like. We've worked quite a bit with CABE over the last couple of years to really ensure that the experience that we're building for our students who are entering 6th, 7th, and 8th grade is really the robust experience that research defines a high quality DLI program to be. So on this slide, you see just some of the things that have to be in place. We have to make sure that a minimum of 2 content courses are taught in the target language, which is Spanish. We make sure that a student experiences both ELA and SLA. And as you look down at the bottom half of the slide, you can see what that 50-50 learning day looks like for our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. You can see the first half in red is what is taught in Spanish, SLA, science, and PE, and then the content areas that are now taught in English, being English, of course, ELA, ELD, history, and math. I also wanted to share, because I know it would be of interest to all of you, that the A through G Spanish experience that we have for our students in our other junior highs will, of course, look a little bit different for the students who have experienced our DLI program. And in working with our high school partners, what we have landed on is what you see on the screen. Our 6th grade students, their SLA program, so the Spanish version of their ELA program will actually be Galleria A, which is the first level. It's like taking Spanish 1. 7th grade is Galleria B, and then in 8th grade, they would have Galleria C. The students who exit our DLI program and enter into the high school district have an opportunity to be assessed to enter into up to the 3rd highest level of Spanish at the high school, which is either AP Spanish or Identity and Culture, depending on which high school the student would enroll in. when we think about outcomes for students in our DLI program, one of the questions that we always ask ourselves is, what is our impact? And what we know is that a DLI experience is good for kids, right? We know that it is good for our students. So shared by one of the speakers tonight was just research around that fact that the overall English Spanish students in our DLI program overall outperform English native speakers. But you have to keep in mind that is true if and when, right? A few different things occur. It has a lot to do with length of time in a program, 4 to 7 years, ideally 7 years in that DLI experience. Has a lot to do with the design of the program. The outcomes, as I shared earlier, are higher for students in a 90-10 model than they are for students who are in an 80-20 or a 50-50. And in many places across the country where 50-50 models existed, they're gradually moving toward that 90-10 because the outcomes are higher for students that experience two-way DLI in a 90-10 model. We also have to keep in mind that the outcomes, the benefit of the DLI program, are not always clearly observable in elementary. You start to see those significant achievements later in late elementary and into high school. And if you would take just a moment to look at the chart or the graph on the right-hand side, I placed this here just to give you the reference point of the importance of the design of the DLI program and why we want to keep it in mind. What you can see with the red flat line across 50 would just be the mean for students who are just native English speakers. And then you see other curved lines that are looking at different types of DLI programs that have been studied since the early 2000s up until now, looking at DLI programs across the country. And what we can see, again, is that research is telling us that the highest outcomes are going to be achieved when we have that two-way DLI program. Remember, two-way is that 50-50 classroom composite. And again, with that 90-10 model in mind. So the outcomes are good, right? And so the next steps for us is really thinking about not do we expand, but how do we expand and how quickly can we expand? And so I thought I would start by sharing just a few of the things that we are doing to bolster our current program with the idea that we're looking to replicate what we have if possible. And then to also share a few thoughts on some of the expansion efforts and to get your feedback, of course, as well. Earlier this evening, Mr. Valencia asked a question about how we're recruiting, how we're staffing our DLI program at Jimenez and potentially at other sites across the district. And we have shared a little bit in the past about our teacher pipeline work that we've been doing. And so I just want to bring your attention back to that, because the primary intent of our teacher pipeline program is to grow your own. And so we do have a partnership that's been in place now for a couple of years with Cal Poly, where we are placing student teachers at Jimenez for bilingual authorization, and then also, of course, with special education. We've also shared with you recently that we entered into an agreement with CalU. So some of the various grants that we've applied for are to provide that residency opportunity to ideally individuals in our community, specifically our classified employees, our bilingual instructional assistants, and others who have that desire to go into teaching. And all of our ongoing recruitment efforts have been with the idea of targeting the individuals who already work in our school system, again, who have that desire to become certificated classroom teachers, whether that's a BIA or a pre-K teacher who would like to obtain his or her credential. The grants that we have applied for, and they're coming in. We're getting a couple. We'll have a couple more that we're still waiting to hear on, but we're having good success with that. The intent is to offset the burden of the cost of entering into a program. The idea is to ensure that the program that we design in partnership with CALU is happening in the evening hours, so that if I'm working during the day in the classroom as a bilingual instructional assistant, I can still attend and get support in the evening hour to complete my credential and become a teacher. And the job description that we shared earlier did speak a little bit to the idea that we do place as many student teachers as we can at Jimenez Elementary School, specifically in the DLI program, with the idea of growing our own. We have also been really looking at the programmatic aspects of our DLI program. I shared a few moments ago the schedule of what the learning day looks like for a student, and that work was done alongside CABE. We've partnered with them for the last 3 years to really look at the learning experience that we're providing and to fine-tune things. We wanted to ensure that we're all teaching the same subjects in the same language, assessing in the same language, right? Reporting on the students' achievements based on either all English or all Spanish, depending on the grade level of the student. Beyond that, we also engaged with CABE in coaching cycles. So that happens both with the site instructional and ELD coach, but also with CABE consultants coming in and working with our Jimenez leadership team. And we're looking to expand upon that in this upcoming year. 2 of the areas that they've been working with our teams on specifically are bridging in our DLI program, which is something that we are just beginning to develop going into the next year. Bridging is the concept of I've taught the content perhaps in Spanish. After I've finished that unit, I pause and I take time to teach the vocabulary, the key ideas in English. Different than translanguaging, where I would be using the 2 languages basically interchangeably all along. In a DLI program, I would teach it in the language identified. And once students have acquired it, then I would just pause and bridge, if you will, those 2 languages for a short period of time, and then move on to the new learning. So what that looks like in our learning guidance for our pacing guidance for the year and supporting our teachers in implementing that is a focus for us this year. And then, of course, also that translanguaging stance that has a place in a DLI program, but also has a place in all of our classrooms across the district. So we appreciate the efforts and the support that we've been getting from CABE in that effort. We also, as you know, and have mentioned this evening, plan to add a dean to support the program at Jimenez. We're hoping to add this specialized coaching TOSA position and then also the counselor position that we just spoke about. When we think about expanding DLI, I can take care of all of the curriculum, all of the teaching and learning, but then we have to depend on our partners in both human resources and in business, the business department, because it will always come back to, of course, finding that highly qualified staff, which we are very hopeful that the pipeline work we are doing is going to provide us with a plethora of individuals who want to teach in our system, specifically in our DLI program or programs. And then also, what does it look like for facilities? And we know that we have some competing interests coming up with universal transitional kindergarten and full day kindergarten. So how do we think about that as we're thinking about our master planning for facilities going into the next school year? And then thinking about what are the various ways that we might want to expand. Do we want to expand the program that is at Jimenez School right now? If so, what would that look like? Do we want to expand that 7-8 experience into another junior high so that it's not just happening for students who are at Jimenez? Do we want to possibly have additional strands happening at different schools throughout the district? Maybe 1 per cluster, maybe 2, maybe not, depending on what the need and the desire is. And so our plan over the next few months is to do a lot of research and study, specifically with our partners with CABE. We also want to look at what other designs are happening across California and always seeking to what is best practice as pointed out by CDE, keeping all of that in mind. And then after, having fully explored what the opportunities are, we also want to be getting input from our community. So we would like to have a survey that's completed by our community members, our parents, to find out what their interest is in a program so that we can get a better idea of where might we need additional programs if they're not at Jimenez. Again, would it be one per cluster? Would it be a strand or 2 strands at a particular elementary school? What is the actual desire of our parent community and where is the desire for the programs? So we'd like to gather that data from our community and then also establish a work team that would come together and talk about that data and what possible models do exist. What I did not mention before is we talked a lot about the 2-way DLI programs, but there are also 1-way DLI programs. And when you think about the composition of our district, we know that about 80% of our students, just under 80% of our students are ever ELs. And so it might not be possible to obtain that 50-50 2-way model that we have at Jimenez. It might be that we need to look at something called a 1-way model, which is where the majority of the students are speaking that target language. And so that looks a little bit different, right? And so that is something that we would want to explore with the board and with that work team as well to see if that might be a possibility for our district. We don't want to waste a lot of time because there is a lot of excitement around this and there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of things happening. So let's look into this too. So our thinking is that this fall, just over the next couple of weeks, we would be developing that survey and doing additional research, like I mentioned, that we would have an input forum also, and then take the input that we gather from that forum, take the input that we have from the survey, put together that work team, and then be able to come back to the board later this closer to the winter time with a plan, possibly for your consideration. So I know there's a lot of excitement around the possibility of expansion, of course, and I'm excited to hear your feedback on what I've shared this evening and what other questions you might have or ideas that you might have for this work.
Jennifer, first, thank you for you and all of the folks who put this together. It's very comprehensive and really informative. So appreciate it. Some of the feedback that I got in meeting with parents recently was very much in keeping with what you're talking about as far as different sites. That their concerns were for transportation and equity within the confines of the city and stuff, different areas of the city to be able to have access to this this type of programming. And I would, also, I obviously concur with that, but I also, my concern with having only one site, DLI, was it would continue to promote a sense of elitism or boutique, as it's been referred to by some, nature of the program rather than really feeling comprehensive and inclusive. One of the other things that the parents of the prospective junior high kids mentioned, and I hadn't really thought of, was that their children are already expressing a concern or a dissatisfaction, I guess, maybe, that they're not going to be able to participate in comprehensive junior high activities. In other words, the comprehensive junior high experience is going to include athletics and different electives and clubs and what have you, and that their concern is that in having a K-8 model, that they're not going to be able to experience that. And so my vision or my thought going along with them was that if you have elementary sites and then have a junior high site rather than K-8, that they can in fact then have that LI experience, but also enjoy a comprehensive junior high experience. And so that might also go along with what we've, that's gone through this multiple times where, moving classrooms around and grade levels and all those kinds of things with the confinement we have with facilities. It might not be something that works right away, but certainly something to consider. And I thought it was a really great point on their part to bring that forward. I know when Orchid decided to start the charter school, they really hadn't considered offering comprehensive comprehensive high school services. So when students showed up and some of those things that their other peers were experiencing weren't there, then it became a reactionary thing. So I think that's something that we can think about.
I think the program's been going really well at Jimenez, and Mr. Hollings had stated we got to start somewhere to start expanding. Where, I don't know where we would start, but that's been a great program at that school. Seeing the kids excel, and I have talked to parents. I mean, I was at West Side watching All Stars, and I had parents that live on the West Side that got into the lottery because they want their kids to go there. And they're concerned, why is it just at one school? How can we get this to expand in other schools where our kids are staying in their school sites? So I didn't have an answer. I'm glad this is being brought to us for discussion to see where we can go with this forward. And I'd like to be involved to see when we are having these surveys put out and these forums. So me as a board member, I'm speaking for myself, to be there and hear all this feedback and be a part of it and support it, because I think it's a great program, and it's
Absolutely. With your blessing, that is one of the things our next steps will be to determine when and where will that be and begin the advertisement of it.
For sure. Thank you.
Yeah, and I just want to thank you, Ms. Loftus and Ms. Dutra, for putting this together. And really, it is going to be a concentrated effort. It's going to be something that's going to be coupled with the expansion of UTK and universal preschool. It is going to be something that we have to do together, and we have to have voices a part of that, a part of this expansion, that it can't be done in a vacuum. And so we are committed to doing that and being able to provide information. We just don't want to have DLI programs for the sake of having DLI programs. Yeah. We want to make sure that they are comprehensive and they are of excellence, so that our students really can benefit from that. So I want to thank you for having this information. We'll have more information for you as well.
I do appreciate all the systems in place in terms of the visual and something to look back on, because I did take notes, but I do need to go back and take another look and just move through that process. And I do appreciate if maybe we could have this shared, and then I can sit down and just filter it through, because it's really good information. I do appreciate the connection to all the aspects of ongoing futures. I also went into my head going, okay, we're doing teacher induction, that credentialing, that bilingual credentialing could be a real good carrot angle and move through, and also look at some of those stipends that maybe could be increased for those bilingual. I thank you for the whole enchilada.
Nice.
Yes, I would echo that thought as well. Having been here when in the infancy of the program and knowing from where we started, the success and interest has essentially compounded with every year. And I can appreciate, that there are those in our community that, are raising the questions. But I also just want to say that along with program development, we're just now really able to address building capacity, right, in terms of growing our own, if you will, instructional staff, and providing them with the tools that they need, because 2015 isn't really that long ago. And, we started from scratch. I was involved in those initial meetings and planning sessions and served on that committee right up till right before COVID when they were still meeting. And so we have experienced the growing pains and learned a lot of valuable lessons and have reached the point now where we can realistically consider some of the options that, you know, are laid out here. But as with anything else, you know, if you try to do too much too fast, you sink or get stuck. And, you know, my personal feeling is, you know, our district has a long tradition of struggling, you know, with academic performance. We don't want to add to that burden by, you know, not having a significant program like this, you know, be successful and grow out of success rather than some other event. So, yeah, I too appreciate the time and the consideration, and I appreciate and support the community desires and supports for this, but I would just ask for their continued support as we are able to grow thoughtfully.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would add to the comments of my colleagues that similar to Mr. Lara, when I speak to parents, you know, one of the major concerns that many of them have is the lack of ability for sometimes their own children to be able to communicate with them, you know, in their native languages, whether it's an indigenous language, whether it's Arabic, whether it's Spanish, whether it's Tagalog. You know, we know that, you know, that language, you know, is culture, right? And that when we support the linguistic needs of our students, right, it leads to a better academic identity for our young people. So to me, the expansion of dual immersion, it goes hand in hand with our mission, you know, and our values and as an institution, which is to enhance the, you know, academic performance of our students in terms of improving their citizenry. And so I appreciate the energy that we're all a part of, you know, working alongside our parents and our students and our community members, because clearly this is a major priority for our community. And it seems like our community's been waiting for us, right, as leaders to really make this a priority, because it's been a priority in our community for many years. And I'm glad to see that that we're finally giving this more attention, the attention that it deserves. So I do understand that we have many different issues we need to address, whether it's, you know, pre-K and all those other things, universal pre-K and all those all the other needs that we need to have. But I don't want us to forget that this has been a priority for our community for many, many years. So I'm happy to see that this is on our agenda and that this is going to continue to be on our agenda, because I can assure you from all the students that I have in my classroom that are alumni from our district, Bonita, also highly value the importance of being bilingual and trilingual. So I can't wait for all the exciting work that we're going to be doing together alongside our educational partners on this. And I do also want to say that this doesn't have to be a this or that. I definitely wouldn't want our middle school students to feel like they're not going to be able to have a comprehensive experience with electives and things like this. I think if we do this right, our young people will still be able to have lots of options in their educational trajectory. I think that's what makes that education funner. So I think we can definitely do that if we set this up right. And I definitely, you know, I understand the concern around, you know, too much too fast, but I also equally am concerned with too little too slow. And so I hope that we continue to build on this energy of supporting our dual language immersion, so that our families don't feel like their children are missing out because they don't live in a certain neighborhood to a certain neighborhood school. So I definitely want to see dual language immersion become the norm in our district as opposed to the exception. And unfortunately for now, it seems like it's the exception, but I'm looking forward to that dual immersion being the norm in our community. Thank you very much. And thank you to our students and our teachers, right, who were the original folks to do it in our district, right? I know doing something for the first time can be very challenging. So I really want to give it up to Jimenez, to all their staff, all their leadership that have been involved in this work, because it is clearly gaining momentum throughout the state, throughout the nation. The research confirms that it works for our kids. And so I can't wait to continue to be a part of this work. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Questions? With that, I'll acknowledge receipt of the DLI program update as presented. Thank you, Ms. Loftus. Dutra. Ms. Cordero, do you have anything you'd like to report out?
Yes, actually, I would. I have not yet been able to get around to visit any of our summer school programs, although that is my intent. I wish I could say it was because I've been on vacation, but having your house fumigated has been what's keeping me busy these past few weeks.
It's a 10.
I know.
I can't.
Yeah, but you can't stay when in the tent.
Yeah, right.
So,
That's a sticky
just
part.
a minor issue there. And we did have a quarterly schools meeting this morning. It was very sparsely attended. I was actually the only board member there. The assistant city manager, the mayor was there, and the two superintendents, one from Orchid and the high school district, were there. But there is actually the city, there's a lot going on in our city. Probably most of you have noticed that there's a lot of road resurfacing, which is going to be partly, it's Caltrans for any of the state, which is Broadway and Main.
Finally.
Although what they're doing is probably only going to last about 10 years. But then other streets throughout the city, they're kind of on a schedule and are going to continue to be working on that. He mentioned a Battles beautification grant, a project for that in that corridor, I think on the west side along Battles. Veterans Memorial Park is getting some upgrades. They're beginning work on the Enos House through Recreation and Parks, and that will be a Japanese community center. Chapel Plaza, some things potentially going on in the Town Center West. We're going to be seeing a few electric buses in the city, and that's compliments of the state and federal government. Some energy upgrades going on at Paul Nelson Pool, and a lot going on when it comes to water, which includes our wastewater treatment and adding an additional well in the city, because not only do we buy water, we also have a fairly good reservoir of water beneath where we live. And all of those are looking toward the future growth. Homelessness was mentioned and continues to be an ongoing issue. Basically, the consensus was that there really, the state does a little of this and the federal government does a little, and then it's left up to the cities to try to do some follow through and enforcement. But there's not really any coordinated efforts to really address that. And all looked at each other and, yeah, okay. From the high school districts, there was discussion of the need for more of the social emotional supports, not just in the social emotional, but the health, the learning, the school security, and transportation. We had our own busing issues last year, and the high school district did as well. So they have interest in the bus services and being in on how stops are determined, because it's likely they will need to consider that as well. There is, and they mentioned you, Dr. McDuffie, so there's some planning being done for the superintendents to meet with first responders to really talk about, protocols and things such as that to address emergencies such as the active shooter or any other kinds of those things that do seem to be occurring more often. So in Orchid, the change in the policy that we looked at tonight regarding having the ability to provide emergency services for opioid or fentanyl overdoses is in their policy. They are going to be breaking ground on a new gym and theater at the Orchid Academy High School. This was very interesting. For a number of years, their independent study program has been run out of the Casmalia School because the agreement was to keep that school open when Casmalia unified with Orchid. But the internet provider just up and said, we're not going to provide services out here anymore. So that kind of was a low blow. So they're moving their independent study program back into Dunlap School. And they're really looking at different ways to keep that Casmalia campus functional and pertinent to the community, although I think she said there were like 5 students that came from the Casmalia to Orchid. So, and declining enrollment, I think has hit them a little bit harder than it has hit us. I, of course, explained that our superintendent was meeting with the superintendent of county schools, and so was not with us, but talked about expanding our kindergarten and universal transitional kindergarten and the challenges that we will be facing, and that we are looking also at our DLI program, because I saw that on our agenda, and I know that from our LCAP meetings and so forth. Talked a little bit also about while we are experiencing some declining enrollment, what really has been a harder hit is our rate of attendance. And, a lot of that due to COVID, and, that threat is still looming. There's been an uptick, as we all are aware, and the testing services now are much more limited. And so keeping my fingers crossed that won't have to, that we can get through it, I guess. And then it was on the news last night, Communify, which used to be, I don't remember now. Anyway, they have some significant grant funding to begin a program that they're calling Secure Families, where they'll be working with school districts and different agencies within the Santa Barbara County to work, starting with a focus on 5th grade at-risk students for drug use or abuse, which I thought was quite exciting, and I'm anxious to hear more about that. So I think that'll be another, I think, Fighting Back Santa Maria was mentioned, and so I think, perhaps some additional support there, for some of our, and I'll say at risk only because I'm talking about their health and well-being rather than their academic performance. And, affinity to, or in any inclination to join gangs and such, that there may be a little more effort put into that, especially here in North County. So I've been going to a lot of softball and baseball games.
We just thank you to Arte, Aguilar, and Avalos to expressing their thoughts about DLI and where they were coming from as parents and folks who had been there from.
Mr. Valencia.
Yes, I want to just say, give a big welcome to Dr. McDuffie, who's his first official school board meeting with us as a board. I hope we were a decent board for you, Dr. McDuffie, that that we are hopefully a pleasure to work with. I hope that this is indicative of of good things to come in the future. And so I want to extend a warm welcome to Dr. McDuffie. And it's been such a pleasure to see Dr. McDuffie in the community, meeting lots of people, connecting with many of our local leaders, of our students and our families. And I noticed the buzz that Dr. McDuffie has created thus far. People are really excited to see how he's going to help us improve student outcomes. People are really curious and excited to see how he's going to help to improve the professional culture of our institution. And when people say, so what, so what's he like, and what's he going to do? Like, well, it's clearly too early to tell, but thus far, I'm really looking forward to building an institution that that works for all of our young people and our families. And I'm just really excited and want to again welcome you to the Santa Maria Valley. We have a wonderful community here, as you're continuing to become familiar with. And like I said, I'm just excited to work alongside you and the board to make good things happen for our community. So welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Valencia.
I've been out where kids are. Grandkids have a tendency to do that. And my grandkids attend the district, so I see a lot of district children out there. The Boys and Girls Club is doing a great job with basketball league, and they've grouped a lot of the teams by school sites. So they're playing with their friends and having a great time and visiting and seeing classmates along the way. I also am at the Manami Center for the junior high school level, and they did the same kind of thing. So a lot of the junior high school teams are mixed, boys and girls, but they are with schools that are students, some of the same schools and or nearby schools. There's another program out there that's free of charge, and it's sponsored by the San Francisco Giants. So I have another grandson who's playing baseball, and they have lots of age levels, and they're at Hagerman, and they're provided with uniforms and head to toe, playing time, practice time, volunteer coaches. You're seeing a lot of the community out there. It's on Saturdays and sometimes it's early, but we're out there and we're seeing a lot of great things happening with students, with kids, with gathering out there in a safe environment. And not last, but and not least, summer school. I was able to attend. I go there every day because I drop off a couple of kids, but I also on the couple of days at the beginning was able to help support, get kids to where they're going, because to me it's a new and exciting kind of system going on. They have a morning summer school, and then the afternoon is enrichment. And in the enrichment, they're moving in, I believe it's 70-minute blocks. I might be wrong, but they have 3 choices. So, you know, there's a STEM option, there's arts and crafts, there's mask making, dance, math, PE, just to name a few that I got a hold of in terms of my brain, and they stayed there. But kids are out and about, and they're not just kindergarten only in arts class, it's mixed kids. So some friends are together, some siblings are together. You may have a 3rd, 4th, 5th kindergarten range, but they're all in there just really having a great learning experience. It's a different kind of experience because they don't think they're learning anything. They think they're having fun, which is happening. They're having fun. And, you know, I get an earful with an explanation as to exactly what happened that day, and they're learning a lot. So thank you to all of those teachers who are, and support staff, and everyone who was out there doing the last 2 weeks of summer school for the enrichment piece. Mr. Bisson is manning the ship at Ontiveros, and so hello to Mr. Bisson and a thank you. We brought him out of retirement to do this, and I see him having a good time out there too. So again, lots happening for our kids in our district. I just wish I could sign them all up so that they're all somewhere doing something during the summer. Thank you.
Well, I just want to say, I want to thank everybody at the district office and for all you teachers and sites that's going to be coming back. It's going to be around here, just around the corner, but 3 weeks. Well, it's okay. Times. It's all exciting times. But then again, I want to thank Mr. Beecher for being interim and welcoming Dr. McDuffie in here and working with him side by side, as well as all of the cabinet, because these are going to be good times and we're all looking forward to it. And as Mr. Valencia said, Dr. McDuffie, welcome aboard. We're excited. And as one board member, speaking for myself, and I, you know,
time to dance.
We're really happy and glad that you're here and support you.
I know we all said that previously. We just didn't say it publicly. We are excited.
Dr. McDuffie, you have anything you'd like to?
Well, first of all, thank you, President Lara, board members. As I begin my tenure here at Santa Maria Bonita School District, I am humbled and honored to be here to serve the students and families of Santa Maria. The staff and community have been nothing but welcoming and genuinely kind. I want to thank everyone so far as I continue to meet and talk with staff and community members before the opening of the new school year. This morning, I did meet with the Santa Barbara County Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Susan Salcido. Thank you. And this was the first opportunity that I had to meet her in person. I was impressed with her and her dedication to the children in the schools of Santa Barbara County, as well as Santa Maria Bonita. And I look forward to working with her. We have a meeting, a county meeting for the county superintendents on Friday to actually receive a COVID update and how things are going across the county. So I'll keep you posted on that as well. Along the same lines, I've been meeting with community leaders who represent agencies that support our students in many ways at many points in their educational careers. I've had the pleasure to meet with Dr. Kevin Walters at Allen Hancock College. We also took a tour at Allen Hancock, and we also had some of our students in the math program there this summer that I was able to visit. Made me feel really good to see students after such a long time. Also, Santa Maria Mayor Alice Patino, Shannon Seaford from Santa Maria YMCA, the CEO there with some of her board members, Michael Boyer, the Boys and Girls Club CEO. And I enjoyed listening and learning about the services they provide in our community and how we partner and strengthen our relationship and really maximizing the programs that they offer to our students. On Friday I don't know when Friday is. But when Friday gets here, I'll meet with U.S. Congressman Salud Carbajal. And we'll really talk about discussing issues that are important to our community. And we'll be talking about the importance of available health care, especially with our migrant families and their children, addressing labor shortages. So those are the things that we'll be talking about, and I'll keep you posted on that. Last week, I visited the Community Health Center Immunization Clinic event that was held in partnership with the district to provide required vaccinations to more than 100 incoming kindergartners and seventh grade students. The CHC clinic was held in the Veterans Memorial Park across from El Camino. At the same event, our students from 162 families were able to select items from the mobile trailer closed closet organized by the Children's Resource Network. Our Family Engagement Department provided 143 backpacks filled with hygiene and school supplies and COVID test kits. And the Santa Barbara County Food Bank provided special food distribution to 143 families. This afternoon, and I don't think they're there now, but this afternoon there was a monthly healthy school pantry food distribution event at Veterans Memorial Park, sponsored by Santa Maria Bonita School District in conjunction with the Santa Barbara County Food Bank and Family Services Agency. I got an update from Maggie White later on that the line was very long. There was about 400 backpacks that were given out, filled with supplies and with hygiene products, and an additional 150 backpacks or so given out as well. And so, again, I want to thank them for doing that. So important. I want to thank Tammy Castillo-Schiffer, Director of Family Engagement, and Margot Oliveria, Family Outreach Advocate Supervisor, and their staff for putting on these important events for our students and their families to help them prepare for the new school year. And I have to give an additional shout out to Margot Oliveria because she was wearing a USC hat at the time. So fight on to Margot. Last but definitely not least, our human resources staff, led by Assistant Superintendent Bijou Beltran, has been hard at work putting together a job seeker expo that will be held here at the Sousa Center on Friday and Saturday. Community members will be able to learn about the available positions in the district, apply, test, and interview for jobs, all in one visit. As you know, we've struggled to fill some positions such as substitute teachers and student supervision aides due to the labor shortage that is impacting nearly every industry here in the country. So we hope that job fair will bring in quality applicants who want to support students and make a difference here in the community. And so that'll be Friday, 10 to 8 p.m., Saturday, 9 to 2 p.m. And so we want to thank you very much. I want to again thank this Santa Maria Bonita community. And I'm just very excited about being here and doing the work that we do for students here. So thank you very much. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Laura, I'm sorry. And
Say no.
She said it, I did it.
You hit the gavel yet.
I know.
I didn't say that. So.
I meant to do this earlier and I didn't look down at my note, but I would like a follow-up report regarding the description with the special ed situation.
Yes.
I would just like some follow-up on that, please.
Absolutely.
Yeah, earlier the
Okay.
public comment, yes. Well, with that, we'll adjourn.